So the other day, one of my club members asked me about minimizing or avoiding code fatigue, since it's something where in programming day after day after day, start to get kind of cloudy or hard to think ahead. And so this is strategies I've been using now for the 20 some odd years I've been programming games, and the exact answer to pass along to her in regard to trying to push off that feeling of it's just kind of grinding on us. And the first answer is really changing things up in terms of either the project or the type of problem you're working on. And this is very much the same kind of case where if you're in the gym doing one kind of exercise for too long, it's going to wear you out. But if you rotate between different kinds of exercises, well, suddenly you can fit a lot more in the same amount of time. Same thing absolutely applies to coding. It's part of why, for example, in Game Club, we have different projects going on in parallel that members are free to shift between. It's partly because that gives them an outlet for every single week, if they were on the same kind of project, it begins to feel like work. And it is. And that's why a work environment often involves week after week after week on the exact same project. But when you kind of switch it up from solving one kind of problem in a 3D Unity game to another kind of problem in a 2D JavaScript game, it just kind of allows you to kind of step back away from that problem, think about something different for a little bit, then put your head back into that space. This is actually one of the challenges that I had when I was in bigger companies, studio game development jobs, is because week after week, day after day, was always one project being attacked. That's where it really helped me, I found, to even still have some outside projects in order to kind of exercise the brain to be able to have some other kind of puzzle to think about. And that distance actually I found often helped me find better solutions when I got back to the main thing I was working on. Next was actually tied to that, and that's got to do with doing something where you have more creative or personal ownership over the task. And so, this is again the sort of the disparity between if you are not just on a job, but if you're following a tutorial, and that tutorial is telling you exactly what to do and how to do it, that's just not going to engage you in the same way as if you're doing something else where you have some creative control over it. And so this is something where it could really be a prototype for a personal project, could be something totally uncode related for that matter. This is another kind of way of shifting things up where taking a break from doing code to do some pixel art, do some Blender modeling, do some sound effects, again, all things that like in the club, part of why all people are all cross-functional in our group. So that can help kind of give you a break from it. So when you come back to it, you can kind of better focus on it. And this is just as much some of the value for all of us. Even if you're not doing code during a day job or game industry is your main line of work, building games can also help us in that way kind of get a distance from the kind of fatigue we'd be getting from solving other kind of problems, because we have a lot more ways to try and change it up to have, like, say, creative ownership over, where it's not following instructions for here's what to do or how to do it, but really you get to decide what to do with it next or how it's going to go or what features it should have. These kind of, they let us explore bits and pieces about ourselves, like I often talk about, and it's just kind of a very different way of kind of compelling ourselves to stay engaged with a task versus, again, what feels like work is when we're doing something, when we're stuck in one problem space, but more so, we have to do it somebody else's way. And that you start to feel that kind of wear down you much faster than if you're able to do some things the way you want to do them. Now, additionally, having at least minimum 1 or 2 evenings or days a week where you set aside and defend it as that's time when I'm not going to work on this kind of problem. That's going to be for recovery, that's going to be for rest, that's going to be for reading, that's going to be for vegging out on TV shows, whatever it is. This sort of thing is really important for self-care, for sustainable long-term doing any kind of creative work, any kind of technical work, etc. Having that space to recover from it. So even if you really enjoy doing it, even if you really like doing it, you got to have those off days scheduled in there to force yourself to pace it a little bit. Or what ends up happening is we start to reach a point where suddenly we can't keep that every single day streak, and it starts to get us into trouble in terms of maintaining it. So that's where, once again, minimum 1 or 2 evenings or days a week where it's just like, you know what? I'm not even going to think about the problem that day. I'm not going to think about the kind of challenge that day. That's just going to be my evening to recover, relax, rest, socialize, get out, whatever it might be. And that can help us maintain a much healthier and sustainable relationship to the things that we're building, coding, and working on. And then lastly, it's again, ties very directly into why GameDev Club structured the way that it is getting a couple of other people involved can be incredibly helpful, assuming that they are actively engaged with it, that they're not fighting you in terms of how they want to do it, which our people are good about that. But it's why when you get a couple of people involved, a couple effects come out of that. And one is that every time you make changes or progress, you begin to see it not just as helping yourself, but as helping other people. And as I've said a bunch of times before, there's so much more we'll do to help others than we'll help ourselves. When you have a small team and everything you're doing, it's helping them out, it just becomes much easier to stay motivated, encouraged, engaged, to feel like it's meaningful work that we're doing because we know it's benefiting others. Others are paying attention, others care, others are excited to see those changes come in. And then additionally, the other side of that coin is that seeing occasional improvements made by other people on the project, where, you know, you wake up one morning and there's a GitHub check-in from somebody else who's added something nice to move the marker forward, to carry the baton forward in a kind of relay race metaphor. But those little surprises of progress, those little bursts of improvement that don't even come from us, of someone else improving the looks, someone else improving the features, someone else moving forward on schedule, helping to clarify or tidy things that were maybe a little messy, can just be really, really good for our morale, to not feel like we're alone on this, not feel isolated, to not feel like it's all on us. And that's part of why, again, in the case of GameDev Club, we're structured so much around team projects being the core of what we do. But, you know, this helps it be sustainable, helps it not wear down on us as much. But that's the strategy, is to go back through those again. Top level is trying to find a way to change up the kinds of projects you're working on, or the kind of problem you're solving, at least, even if you're in the same code base. Just kind of switch gears. Maybe at a more dramatic stage from that, to take some creative personal ownership. And that might be a side project. That might be, if I'm under 2D or 3D art or sound effects or something that's not the usual code you've been working on. Additionally, making sure you've got at least 1 or 2 evenings a week where you kind of set aside to just recover, just rest, just veg out, just to not try to, you know, just to not get stuck in that singular headspace. And then lastly, getting a small team of people involved, people who care about it, people who have the right attitude about it, people who are adequately prepared to be doing it. Just goes a huge difference in terms of being able to keep your morale up, being able to keep your productivity up, and staying happily engaged with developing games or building other kinds of software. So that's thoughts for the day on minimizing fatigue from coding. I'm curious to hear in the comments if you have other examples of things that you found have helped you minimize fatigue from your experiences coding. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks always for tuning in.